Hello everyone and welcome to Spiritual Hygiene. My name is Josie Bray and I'm your host and guide. Today we have a question from Whitney in Tingsboro, Massachusetts. That's sort of near where I live. And Whitney writes, "Dear Josie, what are your tips to help me find a mentor and hone my intuition to cultivate my spirituality?" Whitney, thank you so much for your question. And I actually have a lot of opinions on this one because I think there are a couple really important things to consider when you're looking for a spiritual mentor. The first one is you want to make sure that this person feels really aligned with you. Like when you have a conversation with them, they feel like the kind of person who you want to learn from. If every time they're opening their mouth, you don't want to listen, that's a sign that that's not a good mentor for you, right? You also want to make sure you're working with somebody who has a very high standard of ethics. This is so important because there is so much bypassing, unfortunately, in our culture. There is a lot of gross things that happen when people gain power and when they are put in leadership positions. And unfortunately, sometimes people stop acting ethically. So I would say make sure that the person you're considering really is working quite ethically. And when they speak about their values align with yours and your heart. Finding somebody can be tricky, Google searches are challenging, right? I wouldn't say that Google is like necessarily the best way to find the person who is most aligned with you. However, these are the tools we have. So I'll tell you that how I found many of my mentors is by word of mouth. I've also done a little bit of research on Yelp to find practitioners near me who seem like they're aligned. Of course, like Yelp is the first step. And then I further investigate that person's website, if they have any media out in the world, if it's aligned with me or not, right? And I've also found all three of my primary mentors actually have been people that I've found in my community, meaning people I know have recommended them. Now, that's really tricky if you don't already have a spiritual community. So if you don't already have a spiritual community, then Google is the tool you have. You just want to make sure that you're being extremely discerning when you show up to someone's website. Really spend some time looking at their materials and making sure that they're both ethical and aligned with your values. The last thing I would just suggest about finding a mentor is making sure that that person's spirituality is rooted in a lineage. We have a lot of kind of bypassy woo-woo that happens in our culture. And a lot of times people think they're doing the right thing by getting online certifications. They're looking for the sorts of things that are the cheapest. And trust me, I've had periods of that in my life, and I understand how important it is to get the training you need at a price you can afford. But you also want to make sure that the trainings that you're getting aren't completely decontextualizing the spiritual work out of its original context, right? Spiritual lineages come from ancestry. They were originally handed down from teacher to student, teacher to student, teacher to student. And in our modern era, a lot of us have forgotten that. And that's a really important thing when you want to work in a spiritual lineage. Spirituality isn't vague, actually. It comes from a place, it comes from a culture, it comes from a people. And you want to make sure that whatever spiritual practice you're engaging with, you know what culture, what people, what teachers it comes from. Thank you so much for your question, Whitney. And if you have a question about spiritual, emotional, or physical health, feel free to email me at hello@josiebray.com, or you can check out my anxiety release bundle at josiebray.com. Thank you so much for coming, and I'll see you next time.